be able to power together to bring about food security in Nigeria. We'll be exploring the major talking points, the challenges, and how it's going to improve the livelihood of not just those in the urban areas, but those in the rural community, based on the fact that production now angle, every sector ranging from renewable, the energy sector itself, the path of grain planting, what role is going to play in terms of providing food security. Also, we are going to be looking at it from the challenges that might arise and the current challenges that is going to yield to a very productive is going to yield a very productive result in terms of providing food security here in Nigeria. I'll be introducing my guests who will help us unpack these major talking points immediately after this break. Stay with us. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, this is Discourse. Now let's get right into the conversation. But before I introduce my guests, let me bring you up to speed with what you may not know. Today we focus on a critical intersection: renewable energy, climate justice, and food security. These are the majors we'll be focusing our attention today. As climate change continues to threaten global agriculture and livelihoods, the call for clean, reliable, and inclusive energy system has never been louder. Across Nigeria and much of Africa, farmers are grappling with erratic rainfall and rising temperature, all of which threatens food production and access. Renewable energy offers a lifeline from powering integration system and storage facility to driving agro-process and reducing post-harvest loss. But to achieve true sustainability, the true transition to clean energy must also be just. Every Nigerian will be asking now is how can renewable energy serve as a catalyst for food security and climate resilience? We're going to figure that out. What policies are needed to make clean energy affordable for farmers and rural communities. Also, we'll be getting to find out what that will be, and also how climate justice ensure that every Nigerian benefits from this green transition. These are some of the questions we're looking to unpack on today's edition of Discourse. Before we get into all of the questions being asked, let me take you to a little bit of the background of agriculture and energy in Nigeria. Nigeria's economy depends heavily on agriculture, employing over 35% of its population, yet limited access to energy remains a major barrier to agriculture productivity. Diesel-powered pumps and generators dominate farms, contributing to greenhouse emission and high production costs. With renewable energy, particularly solar, wind, and bioenergy, farmers can power integration and also have sustainability in terms of having their production. However, the challenge lies in the affordability, access, and justice, empowering that smallholder farmers and rural dwellers can also benefit, not just urban industries or large-scale farmers. Climate justice emphasizes fairness, that those last responsible for global immersion should not bear the greatest burden, but rather be supported to adapt and as well thrive. This conversation explores how Nigeria can align its energy transition with food security goals, ensuring quality, resilience, and inclusive growth. Joining me to unpack this conversation is Temitope Asun, a climate change campaigner and also an activist for a convener, for renewable energy and climate justice, a frontier for food security. Good afternoon, Temitope.
Good afternoon.
Many thanks for joining us on today's edition of Discourse.
You're welcome.
Very interesting conversation we are set to have. So let's just start from the basic. Let's lay a very good foundation so our viewers at home would be able to understand the majors of what we're talking about. Okay. How does renewable energy, link directly to food security in Nigeria?
Okay, so thank you very much for this opportunity. So when we're talking about renewable energy, most of the time what we really focus on are the solars, the batteries and the rest. And there are times we also forget the second part, which is sustainable energy.
Yes.
So most of the time we say renewable energies, solar pumps, solar this, solar that, but most of the time, are they really affordable for farmers, the people that really need them? They are not affordable. So you find out that that woman in a farm in Bauchi, they have their soya milk. They cannot preserve the soya cake. The soya cake goes to waste. And now we begin to talk about how do we preserve that soya cake, because the soya cake itself is another product that they can also sell and make good money from, but because they cannot preserve it goes to waste. So now there's this challenge. What do we produce? Do we produce the milk? Do we produce the cake? And there's this challenge. How do we go about it? So is it that we go for the one that is more valuable and waste? So these are the challenges that these people face. Farmers also, people that so the headers, let's take the headers also, for example. There's the challenge of, where do we graze? It's a major challenge they are facing. But if we decide and make available very good solar-powered environment, forest for them to live in. Why would they go around harassing people all around? So these are things, when we talk about renewable energy, sustainable energies, these are things that policies should be put in place to ensure that, like we all have, like you just said in the beginning, there should be the people that make the most of these problems should be the one that should pay the most for it, not people that don't know anything about it.
Well, we'll get into those aspects now, but how can you explain how climate justice, the principle now apply in addressing the hunger challenge that is currently ongoing in the country? We've seen protests and bad governance. We've seen hunger protests itself in this current administration. So looking at it now, how can climate justice principle apply in addressing hunger and agricultural challenges?
Okay, so when we say climate justice, everybody is suffering the impact of the climate change.
Okay.
Agreed.
Yeah.
But do we really have justice? We don't really have justice.
Okay.
Why? Because who are the ones that generate the more of the emissions and the more of the carbons that we're talking about? Are they really suffering like the woman farmer in Bauchi, or the one in Yobe State, or the ones in Jigawa, the floods, the floods that happen in Borno? Who are the ones suffering?
Yeah, a lot of people
are suffering.
The one that happened in Niger as well.
Niger is there. So
yes.
Mokwa,
yes.
Who are the ones suffering? The big men that emit most of these carbons are not the ones there. It's just the villagers that get the impact, that feel the impact the most. Their houses are the ones that are destroyed. Their crops are the ones that are destroyed. Their sources of livelihood are the ones that are taken away. So, is there really justice? No. But what we're advocating for is, let us find a way of creating a level playing field for everybody. If you must generate the emissions, you must also support those that are at risk from such emissions. So that's what climate justice is supposed to be about.
Yes.
But there's really no there's really no clear-cut point where we see that, oh, this is what they are doing to really help.
But why do you think that's the case in terms of the fact that the justice system, do you think there's a justice system properly spelled out in the energy sector?
Yes, most of the time what we have, the challenges we have in Nigeria is, most of the time people make policies, but implementation is very faulty.
Okay.
And so when we talk about are the people who okay, so there's flood. You come around and you say, oh, you give them 1 billion, you give them 2 billion. So why not spend that 1 million, 2 billion in trying to protect these floods from happening?
Yes.
Why give them these billions after the flood has occurred? So the challenge is, sometimes you look at, are these people really sincere? Because I would also say that most of these things spawns out from the sincerity. Most of the people that say that, oh, climate justice, are they really sincere? That's a question that we really need to ask.
In terms of looking at the flooding and all, most of the times it can be man-made and also it can be a natural disaster, right? You cannot take those two pros out from each other. But in terms of giving out palliatives now and money, what do you think is the problem? Why do you think that the common Nigerian man don't really, this palliatives and this money that is being distributed after the incident happened, whether being a natural disaster or a man-made incident, why do you think it doesn't get to the lower individuals that are meant to have this money?
So it still goes back to what I was saying, the sincerity behind what we do.
Okay.
So you give someone palliatives. Why not create structures in place to ensure that, oh, this does not happen again?
Okay.
So when it's flood, so for the floods in Mokwa and the other ones from Maiduguri and the rest, they were warned. There were early warnings that such could happen.
Okay.
What measures were put in place to ensure that these things, even if it happens, are controlled? People are safe. Okay, you say that, oh, we've given them warnings to move. Where do they move to? Have you provided places where they can move to? Have you given them the assurance that, oh, when you move, we are with you? how are we sure these things were properly done? What's the process they followed in informing these people that, oh, this is what is going to happen, these are the steps we've taken, this is what you need to do. So all these things put together shows that we really don't have a culture or a foundation or a system for doing things. So we just hop on the next agenda. Oh, climate change, we hop on it and we say, oh, this is what is selling, this is what is moving, let's begin to work with it. But we really need to sit down and begin to create structures and systems to how we do things. And by the time we begin to do things like that, then we begin to see the effectiveness of these palliatives that we're talking about, the support system, the welfare that we create for the social welfare and the rest. We begin to see the effects more clearly.
Okay, let's get this straight now. Looking at climate change and food security now, we're trying to marry both of them together because someone sitting at home might just be wondering, we are talking energy. Some persons, a layman will just feel energy is power and all. So they'll try to understand how this is. So now let's try to marry it. Why should energy transition be considered as part of food security issue? Or is food security just meant to be considered as an environmental concern, not at the level of energy transition?
Okay, so when we talk about food security, there are so many things that affect food security. So when we looked at it and we said, okay, one of the NDCs that Nigeria is really pushing for in the 3.0, the one that just came out, the 3.0, is that sustainable, renewable energy. But I would rather say sustainable energy. Why that? Because when we say solar-powered pumps, solar-powered facilities and the rest, most of the time, these things have lifespan. And the lifespan are not more than 3, 4, 5 years. And after 5 years, what happens? We go back to where we started from. So we need to have something that is sustainable. So when we're talking about biogas and the rest, these are more sustainable. These are things that when you put in place, so for biogas, for instance, now, you know that once this biogas facility is in place, you're getting fertilizers from there, you're getting cooking gas or cooking oil from it. So that alone sustains the system. But with renewable energy and solar pumps and the rest, you're just pumping in, trying to secure something. So most of the time we so much focus on the renewables. Yes, it's good, but how does it guarantee food security? How does it marry to food security? So when we're talking about these things, it's food security in the sense that once we have these renewables in place, take for instance this loss that we experience, food loss and the rest, we don't. It helps to a large extent. No, so you take tomatoes for instance, you might not be able to sell all your products at once, and you have storage facility that is refrigerated, that is powered, and the rest. So you'll be at rest. It's not like you sell them off surplus and the rest. You can keep them. It's sustainable. So you know that, in the next 2-3 months, I still have something in the storage that I can sell. So food security, your food is secured. So it's not like, after this, since everything now, that's the end. There are losses, post-harvest losses. Most people now, they complain of post-harvest losses. So you have maize, the season of maize comes, and there's so much maize in town. Before you know what is happening, you move again to another season, and you begin to wonder, what happened again? The maize and the rest. You don't have fresh maize again. All you only have is the dry ones and the rest. So these are the things that with renewables and the rest, you can actually provide a kind of situation where these things are properly stored. Not only storage, you can also process most of these things. So you have your pepper, your tomato, you can actually convert them to tomato paste and keep. And so this is sustainable. Rather than just pack all the tomato, you move them from the north to the south, seasonal like that, when there's rain, when there's no rain. And as much as we're also looking at that, it's also guaranteed irrigation. So we can also have, because we have these renewables energies in place, there's also irrigation. We can also do solar-powered irrigation, which can also help us to run all-round farming for the year. So it's not like we're doing seasonal farming like we usually have. And one of the challenges we have in this country is the seasonal farming. So you farm from April to September, and from September again to the next April, there's nothing to do. So with irrigation in place, with solar-powered irrigation systems, then it's easy for us to be able to have all year-round farming. And once that is in place, then food is secure for us.
Yeah, in terms of generating power now to have all of that sustained now, under the DG of the Energy Commission, talking about Dr. Abdullahi Mustafa, how well would you say within the time frame that he has been in office as the DG, in terms of power generation, they've been able to generate from 4,000 to around 6,000 in the space of 2 years. Do you think at this pace now that Nigeria is headed to having a sustainable power generation, given the amount of population we have?
So I was listening to him a few days back. I was listening to Dr. Abdullahi, I think, yes, Energy Commission. Yes, they are doing a lot. Yes, Abdullahi Mustafa, they are doing a lot. So the challenge is, we don't have a system. So as much as you do, it will take a whole lot of time to actually see the results of what you're doing.
Yes.
So as much as Energy Commission is working, Renewable Energy Association, they are working, we need to pool our resources together, pool our efforts together, create a template. Once we have this template in place, ensure that we work with this template. It will be easier for us to have better results than each association or organization working in silos and try to see, how far has this one gone, how far has this one. So if we work together, then it's easier for us to be able to say, okay, this is what we're aiming for, this is our target, then we'll have better results.
Okay, you made mention of the fact that smallholders farmers are mostly affected by all of the policies based on the fact that the affordability, you mentioned that. So what role can Bank of Agriculture now and Bank of Industry now, what role can they play now to see to the fact that those smallholder farmers, now the woman in Bauchi, Jos, Ebonyi, wherever part of the country, what role can they play in making sure that these farmers get affordable renewable energy at a very affordable cost?
Okay, so Bank of Industry, Bank of Agriculture, Nigerian Customs, Federal Ministry of Finance, I believe to a large extent that what they need to do is, first of all, they have to reduce the duty on imported items that have to do with solar and the rest. We have to build capacity within the country to be able to develop and manufacture those panels here in Nigeria. I know there are a few companies but very few that are actually manufacturing those panels and we also need to put structures. I don't know why I keep saying structures, because I feel to a large extent that if a building has to go tall, then the foundation has to be very strong.
Yes.
And so if we need to make policies and the rest, then we have to create very strong structures for these policies to thrive. So I feel that Bank of Industry, they are doing their best, but I feel that to a large extent they need to do more. And I also feel that innovators need to also step up into this space and begin to see what they can create. Technology has to play another major role here, because we should not leave everything to importation. It really does not do our economy any good. So we need to look inwards and see how we begin to build capacity. Trainings, yes, training is also very important. I know they do a lot of trainings. Bank of Industry, they do a lot. Yes, but we need to still do more, because the women farmers down in those farms, they need to be built. Their capacity need to be increased. People come in, they say they want to do training, they want to do empowerment, but sincerely, do we really go back to do a re-evaluation of these trainings? Do we have strategies to actually know that these people were actually trained and they really accepted this training, or they are working with this training? No, we just come in, we say, and that's the challenge with palliatives that we dish out. We just come, we dish out palliatives, we give them, and after the palliatives, we leave. No. It's like whitewashing a surface.
Yes.
It will stay long. After a while, it goes off, and the impact does not really show that you're doing anything. So I feel we should be more concerted in our efforts in giving palliatives. If we're giving palliatives, we really need to sit down. What actually do they need? We need to sit down with these people that we want to give these palliatives to. We should not assume that this is what they need. We should try and listen to them, before we determine how we'll support them.
Does that apply to giving out loans as well? Because most of the times we've heard about grants, coming out from agriculture and also the energy sector. But at the end of the day, when all of these loans are given, it's as if the country went back 5 steps backwards, because the same issue that people keep advocating for is the same that is still being repeated. So when it comes to, giving of loans, now, how do you think the Bank of Agriculture can be able to navigate this and get the loans to the actual farmers?
I think that most of the time these banks give these loans to people that make the best presentations, that the documentations are very okay, and the farmer that really needs this impact really does not get those loans. I feel to a large extent that we should begin to see how we can be more inclusive in giving out these loans. These grants, we should also look at ways in reaching out to the cooperatives, because most of these farmers, they operate within cooperative units.
Yes.
Let's begin to see how we can reach out to those cooperative units, see how we can make those cooperative units more inclusive, in the sense that we bring them into the financial space and see how we can begin to train them, because we don't expect a woman that is not educated to make a presentation or bring a proposal that is acceptable to the bank. So most of the time, you see that most of them are left out of these opportunities, and people who make those presentations are the ones that get the chunk of the grants and the chunk of the monies, and at the end of the day, you see that it does not trickle down. It's just within a circle of people enjoying these grants and this one. So the Bank of Industry and the rest of them should try as much as they can to go look for those women farmers in those farms, deep down in those local governments and those boards. Let's look for them and see how they can make them more inclusive in whatever grants they are giving or financial assistance they are giving.
Okay, we'll be going on a very quick break, and then when we return back, we'll be having a conversation around policies and new technology, what role they need to play in energy, as well as how we can also marry both that with agriculture and having food security in Nigeria. Stay with us, we'll be right back after this break. Many thanks for staying with us. If you're just joining, we'll be having an interesting conversation here with Temitope, who is opening our eyes on renewable energy and climate change, a frontier for powering food security. A lot of times over and again, a whole lot of public affairs analysts and experts have actually, pointed the fact that Nigeria doesn't produce, meaning most of what our consumables are imported, which is also affecting the economy at large. So individuals have argued that if Nigeria gets to produce more of what she eats and exports, then the GDP and the economy of Nigeria will be stabilized, and also the concerns around food insecurity would be taken care of. So we're having this conversation now. We're about to look into other angles of the challenges that might be affecting this sector. We are looking at what role we'll be looking at what role now, Mr. Temitope, what role that can renewable technologies like solar irrigations, mini grids, and biogas play in supporting rural agriculture?
Okay, so when we talk about renewables and biogas technologies and the rest, they play a whole lot of they have a whole lot of impact on agriculture. So let's take for instance the biogas. So recently we got a partner who was willing to support us if we support our women farmers, our proposed women farmers with biogas technology. So if we're looking at biogas technology now, so the waste, take for instance the waste from the production of the dung waste. So let's start with the dung waste.
No, let's talk about palm fruit.
Or palm fruits.
Yes,
let's start with palm fruit. You know, for palm fruits, you have waste.
Yes.
You have the ones that you have the oil, the palm oil. You start with the palm oil. So you have the chaff and the rest. So most of these things, at the end of the day, the aggregates of these things can, with the biogas technology, they can convert those shaft and the rest into energy.
Yes.
Energy that they can use for cooking. So now that cooking itself, it does not burn like the normal, so it doesn't emit carbon like it should. So it's how would you put it? It's safe cooking,
safe, lighter than what we use
normally. So apart from that, they can also generate fertilizers. They get fertilizers from those as a waste, as a byproduct from that. Also, they also get gas, which can be used to power the generator. So that's biogas alone. Those are the things you get from biogas technology. Now, take for instance, you have a facility for dump yards and the rest. You get more. Instead of throwing the plastics, you can recycle them into biogas using biogas technology, and you get all these things from them. So it's not only that you are cleaning the environment, you're also making something from it that keeps the business running. And so when we talk about renewables, renewable is good, but sustainability, when we're looking at the sustainability, and we say, the biogas is more sustainable, while the renewable solar ones are not so sustainable. But either of the two of them, we still need one of them to run our farming system in Nigeria. We need it because this electricity in this deep down this forest, they don't have power. They have to move their goods, their raw materials to the city, to the urban city. The roads are not good. So we see the problems are multifaceted. You have the issue of transportation, logistics, you have power. But if we have the renewables, we know that, okay, they can stay in the forest and be producing. Yes, instead of bringing them to the urban centers to now produce, they produce in the forest. All we need to do is move to the forest and get the finished goods, take them to the urban center and do whatever we need to do. Rather than bringing the goods from the farm raw like that, taking it to the urban centers for processing and the rest. Processing can be done in the farm. So if we have these renewable technologies in place, they can actually assist in production. So we don't need to bring everything to the city for production. Yes, so that alone makes, and it also gives these farmers some sense of belonging, because now they are creating, they're seeing their product. You see your okay, let's take kulikuli for instance. So you do you grow your groundnut, you process it, you see your final product put in a well packaged, sealed, and you say, you'll be proud that you did this yourself. Rather than just take the groundnut, ship them to the urban centers. The urban centers are the ones that do the production, the whole process. You don't get to know that you are a part of something beautiful. So when you do this, with the help of these renewables technologies in place, they can actually process most of these things. And with that, civilization comes to these farmers. They get people move. So instead of people migrating from the rural areas to the urban centers, they migrate. The migration is both ways. Yes, you go to the rural areas, then they also come. You will not see any farmer that would want to live in the rural area and go to the city, because he has everything he needs in the farm. There's light, there's internet, there's good road network. The basic necessities of life, he can actually get it there. So I feel with the intersection of renewable energy, sustainable energy, and farmers and farm produce, kind of just gives them this opportunity to be able to enjoy both sides of the divide, being an urban and a rural.
And the rural community.
Yes.
But now, to achieve all of this now, obviously it's not just left alone for the government the government has obviously provided policies and initiatives, but what role can private sector now and also local cooperatives, what role can they play in terms of driving to see to the fact that there is actually avenue to have a very good sustainable renewable energy?
So the cooperatives, I believe the cooperatives, we need to start with the cooperatives. So most of these cooperatives, they are all just all about, they need to think deep. They need to be more creative about how to raise fundings for their members. And they also need to get some trainings, because I feel the way they run their cooperatives are still the same old way. Things have moved on. Technology has taken over so many things, and they still want to run cooperatives the way they run it in the past. Definitely it will not make much impact in our modern day times. So they need to get upgraded, get some knowledge on how to run those cooperatives. Once that is taken care of, then it will be better for them to be able to get their members also trained to be able to access opportunities, because there's so many opportunities that these people are missing out on. Either because they cannot package their proposals well, either because they cannot package their memberships well, either they don't have statement of accounts. So recently one of our partners had to partner with a bank to go to the farm that he's running to go and register their BVN there.
Oh wow.
So you understand? So it means that these farmers naturally don't have bank accounts. So how would you trade with such people if you don't have bank accounts and they're part of a cooperative? So most of these things needs financial inclusion, has to be something that all these people have to be involved in. So banks need to, they don't need to sit down in the cities, they need to go to those rural areas, go visit these people, get them registered, get them involved. So once we begin to do all this, it's a whole lot, but I think the private sector should begin to look into those areas. We should not just, so most of the time we just come up and say we need data of farmers, we need data of farmers. By the time we take these data, what do we do with them? Somebody somewhere takes those data, uses them to do one or two things for their own personal gains. And the people that have these data, they don't get any benefits from it. And sometimes some people even use those data and manipulate those data just because they want to gain something from it. So at the end of the day, we begin to look at it that is it really so bad? Are there no better opportunities for these people? But it's not that bad. We just really need sincere people who are just ready to do the good things that normally good people do.
Okay, let's look, talking about good things and normal good people do. Let's look at it now. Have they had successes in terms of achieving in this light, having to achieve renewable energy and also having food security? Have we seen any results of marrying these two sectors together and gaining a very good result? Not just in Nigeria, maybe in Africa at large, and also in other European countries. Let's look at Israel now, for example. Despite everything that has been going on in Israel and Gaza, we've not seen a situation of shortage of food, despite the fact that USAID at some point also, stopped their funding to some part of the world. But still, we've now seen in the news that a certain nation is suffering from food security. And then looking at Israel now, despite everything going on, and they have been practicing green light farming for the longest. Do you think that adopting that in this part of the world now is actually going to help in providing sustainability and also squashing the issue of food insecurity?
So most of the time when we say food insecurity, where does it really come from?
Okay.
So so one of the basic challenges we've had in recent times is the issue of herders, farmers, clashes.
Yes.
So that has really made our food systems insecure. So, and what is the result? What made these things so rampant in our time? It's sincerely because of the impact of climate change.
Okay.
I hope you understand. So, if we're talking about having food security, we need to address these basic issues. The administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is really trying its best. putting so much policies in place, and it might not begin to yield its results now, but we'll begin to see some improvements as time goes on.
Okay.
But beyond that, as individuals, we really need to also sit down and begin to look at the direction we want to face as a nation, as individuals now, because I feel Nigeria belongs to every one of us, and it's not for a particular set of people or a particular set, no particular region. It's for each and every one of us. So we begin to look at how do we secure our food systems. It's very important.
Okay, quick one. Yeah, how can Nigeria balance food security and the agenda with global climate commitments in terms of looking at the climate change is happening all over the world now? How can Nigeria balance it based on the pace on how this change is happening right under our nose?
So the changes we as a country need to make, we are actually making them. The NDCs just came out, the new ones, and majorly references were made to renewable energy, references also to resilience, adaptation, and the rest. I feel to a large extent that we as a country, we should not deny the fact that climate change has come to stay. So once we understand that, then we begin to put measures in place. And one of such measures we need to begin to put in place is to secure most of this our environment is one, drainage systems. We need to have very good drainage systems, because when the rains come, we are exposed. We are very exposed, and it takes a whole lot. And so as a country, we should not wait till the rains come before we begin to put all these structures in place. The damming, those dams that are over flooded, we need to work on those things also. Resilient seeds. I know most of the farmers now, they are planting they are having trainings around resilient crops, the seeds and the rest. Yes, we should focus more on that. Seeds that could withstand droughts, withstand erosion and the rest. We should also focus on that. And above all, we need to build capacity. We should forget that we know too much. We need to upgrade our knowledge, upgrade the knowledge of these farmers, begin to make them understand the impact of this climate change. As a country, we should not just begin to play on their ignorance. No. Rather, we should develop them, build them, so that they will be the ones going out there to speak on our behalf. I feel to a large extent we should build their capacity, should not take them for granted. We should build their capacity. Training should not be something that should be far from them.
Okay, looking at it now, your program is coming up in the next couple of hours. Basically,
I thought you were able to.
It's going to come up in the next minute. So, what do you aim to achieve with this, Space 2.0 climate initiative?
Okay, so last year we had 1.0.
Yes,
and we were just basically out there to throw ourselves out, because the desire it came out of the desire of. I was just tired, and I just felt that, enough of just saying Nigeria is bad, Nigeria is not working, Nigeria is not good, let me japa and the rest. So I felt, rather than just be there, let me begin to find a space where I can actually lend my voice. And climate space just opened up for me. And over time, I've been in that space. I've been doing one or two things. I've volunteered for organizations here and there. But I just said last year that, I want to go beyond just volunteering. I want to put my money where my mouth is, and that was how the whole initiative started. So last year, what we wanted to just do was put ourselves out. But this year, we are going forward. We just don't want to put ourselves out. We want to begin to be among those in the forefront of influencing policies.
Yes, we're seeing the likes of Omolara Stevenson, who is my very good friend. Even told me she was coming. Yes. Okay. So, she is very particular about farmers, and also there's this thing she always says that if a woman doesn't go to farm, the house will be hungry. I don't really know how she puts it very well. Yeah. She's a very strong woman when it comes to food security in agriculture, and she advocates for every Nigerian to have a farm in his or her backyard, just like the First Lady is doing in the presidential villa as well, farming from her backyard. So with your relationship with her and also inviting her for this program, how well do you think your partnership with her is actually going to yield to the fact that Nigerians and the world at large will hear your voices and how to marry renewable energy and agriculture, based on the fact that these are the two, twin crisis that is affecting the whole world.
So Amara, Farmer Amalara, like I would call her. so last year when I went to check the hall for my event, I stumbled on her program. So I just said, let me check this program. That was how I got to know her. So when I saw what she has done and what she's currently doing, I said to myself that, see, these are people that are going to where you're going.
Yes.
You better be with them.
Follow them.
Follow people who know. That was how we got talking. And that's how she's on this. And they just called me now to confirm her attendance tomorrow for the event. So basically, she has been helping women farmers, and our target also with this event, we really want to pool resources together to see how we can finance a project with the Women Cooperative Society that can actually help women to preserve soya milk and the rest, soya cake. So that's one of the basic things that we are willing to accomplish through this event. So her coming with us or joining us on this journey is not a mistake. It was something that we were looking out for, even though we've not sat down to actually look at the pros and the cons. Yes, it's something that's on the card. We're also looking at ASAPAIN. ASAPAIN is a women cooperative society that's also spread. We're also discussing with them. They too will be around tomorrow. So we want to sit down with these women. They are the most vulnerable and the ones that are really affected by this climate change and the rest. So we want to see how we can support them. We want to go beyond just talking to doing. So with this event, we want to move from just advocacy to more of doing, which is supporting them in their projects, creating structures for them. So you see me talking about structures. We want to actually go down and sit down with these people and begin to see how we can create systems and structures for them. So that it's easy for investors to come in. What's on ground? What do you have?
What do you have?
So we want to create those foundations for them so that when investors come, they can be able to invest in them.
God himself will ask you, what do you have? Investors would also ask. Thank you so much, Tim, for taking our time to join us on today's edition of Discourse.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you.
All right. So as the world battles the twin crises of climate change and food insecurity, renewable energy stands out as both a solution and an opportunity. It can power farmers, reduce poverty, and protect the planet, but only if justice, access, and fairness guides our choice. Nigeria's path to food security must therefore be green, inclusive, and just, because powering our farmers sustainably means powering our future responsibly. This is how much time will permit us to take on today's edition of Discuss, and I want to say a very big thank you to the entire production team for making today's production seamless. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again as we discuss further. Bye for now.